This is the first of three videos that I'm going to put together in order to show the process of analyzing infrared thermography images. In this first video, we need to find the reflected temperature in the environment that we're working in. On the screen here, you can see I've opened FLIR Thermal Studio, and I'm in the library tab. So there's different tabs for reporting, editing, live streaming. We're just going to use the library, and I've navigated to my folder over here that has the class examples in it. And I've got some different images. I'm going to use the reflected temperature example, and then later I'll use some of the emissivity examples to demonstrate finding emissivity, and then finally thermal tuning and analysis. For this one, I'm going to open the reflected temperature example. And so I'm going to double click that, and it's going to bring up this editing page. And just a few things to point out here. We have an image that is in focus. This is our thermal image on the main part of the screen. Remember, the camera also takes a visible image simultaneously, and that's shown on the right. So there's different ways we can look at this. This button here at the top is our fusion mode. So thermal only is what we'll use often, but MSX overlays the visual. And on here, unlike the camera, we can actually kind of adjust. Are we looking at more thermal or more visible image? And then there's other vision modes that are the same kind of thing. You can do a center spot or picture in picture. You can look at the visual only. I'm going to stick with thermal only for this portion. Now, in here, the parameters are shown over here on the right, and I might be able to make them a little bigger. Image temperature shown there don't really mean much to us at this point. Right below it, parameters. For finding reflected temperature, we typically set the emissivity in the camera to 1, and we're going to leave it that way. Reflected temperature doesn't matter at this point, because that's what we're going to find. We set distance to 0, and that will prevent atmospheric temperature or relative humidity from having any kind of effect. And then external optics transmission is at 1 or 100%, which means it's off. And on the camera, we usually leave it shut off. And then there's some information here for scale, the scale minimum and maximum shown here over on the left. Right now it's in automatic mode. We can adjust that, but for this, we'll look at that more in image tuning and analysis. Right now, we're just going to get this reflected temperature. So to do that, I'm going to go to the top, and this button right here, if I hover over, you can see it says Add Measurement. If I click the drop-down menu, I get several different options here: spot, line, rectangle, ellipse, delta. Now you can see these polygon, magic wand, polyline have a little eye next to them. These require the full license. I'm using the trial or the free version, which is what we use for class, and is more than capable for the kind of image analysis we're going to be doing. But I'm going to click on rectangle. I'm going to add a rectangle measurement, and I want to cover as much of the diffuse reflector panel as possible, but not go off the edges. So I'm going to go up near the corner. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to drag to cover the majority of the panel. And then I'm going to click again, and that will create box 1. And now you can see the parameters on the right are for the box. If I click anywhere else in the image, it goes back to my original ones. If I want to go into the box, I click on it, and it brings the box parameters up. I'm not interested in the hot spot, and I'm not interested in the cold spot. What I'm interested in is the average. I also don't need a hot spot marker or a cold spot marker. So I'm going to get rid of those. I'm not going to use any local parameters right now. And I'm not going to use anything with isotherms or anything like that. That's kind of to create alarms. And you can change the name if you want. We can call this TREFL for reflected temperature. So now you can see my box spelled TREFL. And the average is 78.1. If I click on the image here, you can see now another line shown up under this temperatures. This wasn't here before. And it says the average temperature is 78.1. So that's the temperature I'm going to go back and put in the rest of my images in order to have the camera calibrate or compensate for the reflected temperature in the environment. Now, this, you can either put that in, you can either find this before you take the rest of your pictures, or if you take this picture, the reflected temperature image with the diffuse reflector, and then you take your other images of the object you're inspecting, you can always go back later, like I'm going to do in the examples, and put this average temperature in. So we'll remember, I'll show you this in the next example when we find emissivity. We'll want to remember that the average temperature we found was 78.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Before I go out, I'm going to save, and I'm going to exit. And now you can see I'm selecting that image. It shows the boxes there and everything. If I want to get some details on it, I can always open it back up and it'll show there as well.